Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Your English Podcast, the best way to improve your English. Today, we're doing something a bit different, maybe.
Yeah, definitely interesting. We're going behind the scenes.
Exactly. We're taking a really close look, a deep dive into the structure of a podcast. And we're using the actual plan for this podcast, Your English Podcast, as our main example.
Right, and we also have this other document, which is super detailed. It's an outline for talking about social media and phone bans.
Yeah, it's quite comprehensive, so it gives us a kind of comparison, another way to look at structuring a really in-depth discussion.
So for you listening, the idea here is sort of twofold.
Okay.
First, we want to break down the bits and pieces that make a podcast like ours work, especially for learning English.
Right. And because of that, the second aim is, well, we'll be explaining things very clearly, maybe a bit more slowly than we sometimes do, just to make sure it's easy to follow if you're newer to English.
Spot on. Clarity is key today. We're peeling back the layers, you know.
Yeah, peeling back the layers, not just of this specific podcast, but sort of how you put together audio content effectively in general.
And we'll be using bits from both documents to show different ways of doing things. Hopefully offer some useful insights.
Okay, great. So let's dig into this first document then, the one about the structure for Your English Podcast.
Let's do it.
Point number 1. It's all about how the podcast starts. It says the opening should be, "Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Your English Podcast, the perfect place to boost your English little by little with each conversation."
Okay, so right away you notice it's not just a random hello.
No.
That welcome back part, it does something, doesn't it? It kind of creates this feeling of community, like you're returning to a familiar place.
Yeah, exactly. It acknowledges people who've listened before, which is, well, quite a nice touch, psychologically speaking.
And the next part. The perfect place to boost your English little by little with each conversation.
That phrase feels very intentional. Perfect place. Sounds confident, reassuring.
Right. And then boost your English little by little. That's crucial, I think.
Why do you say that?
Well, language learning can feel huge, overwhelming sometimes, you know, so little by little makes it sound manageable, achievable.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. It lowers the pressure and emphasizes consistency over like sudden leaps.
Exactly. It's encouraging. Keep going, bit by bit. And with each conversation, that frames it nicely too.
How so?
It suggests it's not just a lecture, but an engaging chat, something you participate in, even just by listening, more dynamic.
Got it. So that opening really sets a specific tone. Welcoming, encouraging, manageable.
Precisely. A lot packed into one sentence.
Okay, moving to the second point in the structure. Host introduction, the note says, a man, Alex, and a woman, Nina, look in detail at every daily habit that will improve English.
So this part quickly tells the listener who's talking and what the main focus is.
Simple and direct.
Yeah. And having both a male and female voice, that's mentioned specifically. It can make the show feel more balanced, maybe relatable to more people.
That's a good point. And it instantly locks onto the core theme, daily habits that will improve English.
It promises practical tips, things you can actually do, not just theory.
Right. Actionable advice, which makes it feel relevant straight away. Like, okay, I can use this.
Yeah. And you know, it's interesting. Our actual opening line today said, best way, not perfect place, like in the notes.
Oh yeah, I noticed that slight difference too.
It just shows how these things can evolve a little over time. You know, the core message stays, but the exact wording might get tweaked. Natural evolution, I guess.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, point 3. This one is called explanation of necessity. The outline says, they try to explain in as much detail as possible why learning English is so necessary.
Ah, the why. This is fundamental, isn't it? For any kind of learning.
You mean motivating the listener?
Exactly. You need to know why you're putting in the effort. So the podcast needs to articulate that value.
Right.
Is it for jobs? Travel? Accessing movies or books? Personal growth?
Right, so it's about answering that silent question, why bother?
Yeah. And the outline says in as much detail as possible. So not just a quick mention, but really exploring the benefits.
Which reinforces why tuning into the podcast is a good use of your time. It connects the learning activity to, like, real-world goals.
Mm-hmm. Makes it feel meaningful. Less like homework, more like an opportunity. And this why can be sort of woven in throughout the podcast, not just stated once at the beginning.
Good point. Keep reminding people of the value.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, point 4 focuses on the delivery. Simple speech.
Ah, yeah.
The instruction is the presenter's speech should be simple so that it can be understood by those who are new to English.
This is absolutely critical for a language learning podcast. You have to prioritize clarity.
Using straightforward language, avoiding really complex sentences or obscure words.
Exactly. Clear pronunciation, maybe a slightly measured pace, like we're trying to do now, actually.
Right. We're being quite deliberate with our pace and vocabulary today, aren't we?
We are. Because the goal is comprehension, making it accessible. Simple speech doesn't mean simple ideas, though.
Explain that bit.
Well, you can discuss complex topics, but you present them using language that's easy to grasp. You build understanding step by step without unnecessary linguistic hurdles.
Okay, so it's about removing barriers to understanding, making the path smoother for the learner.
Precisely. It's a core pedagogical principle.
Got it. All right, point 5 in the structure, encouraging subscriptions, the outline notes. The hosts periodically encourage viewers to subscribe to this channel.
Standard practice, really, for any kind of regular content, but important.
Why is this so important?
Well, for the listener, subscribing means they don't miss new episodes. They stay connected. For the creators, it builds the audience, shows engagement, and helps sustain the podcast.
So it's a win-win.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It helps build that community we talked about earlier, too. A subscriber base feels more like a connected group.
Where do you think is the best place to put those reminders, those calls to action?
Often near the start or end, or maybe after you've delivered a really useful piece of information. The key is not to overdo it. Make it sound natural, not too pushy.
Yeah, like a gentle nudge. Hey, if you like this, subscribe so you get more.
Exactly. Frame it as a benefit for them.
Makes sense. Okay, point 6. Asking listener questions. Okay, it says, they also periodically ask viewers questions about this podcast.
Interaction. This is super valuable.
How so?
It does two main things, I think. First, it makes the audience feel involved, heard. It's not just a one-way street. Second, you get direct feedback. What do people like? What topics do they want? What could be clearer?
So it helps improve the podcast over time based on what listeners actually want or need.
Yes, exactly. It fosters that two-way conversation, even if it's asynchronous.
What kinds of questions work well?
Oh, loads. You could ask for topic ideas, feedback on a specific segment, maybe ask about their own learning experiences or challenges. Anything that encourages them to share their thoughts.
Creates more of a dialogue, makes people feel invested.
Definitely.
Okay. And the final point in this structure, number 7, ending with thanks. Simple enough. At the end, the hosts thank the audience for listening to the podcast.
Seems basic, but it's really important, isn't it? Politeness goes a long way.
Just saying thank you.
Yeah. It shows appreciation for the listener's time and attention. They chose to spend, 30 minutes or an hour with you. Acknowledging that leaves a positive final impression.
Makes them feel valued. And maybe more likely to come back next time.
I think so. It reinforces that sense of connection and mutual respect. Simple, but effective.
So that's a walkthrough of the 7 key structural points outlined for the Your English podcast. Really interesting to see it laid out so clearly.
It is. It shows the thought that goes into making it effective, especially for its specific audience.
Okay, now let's shift gears a little. Let's look at that second source we have, the really detailed outline for a discussion on social media and phone bans.
Right, the one with, 80 points? It's incredibly thorough.
It really is. And while we obviously can't go through every single point in the same way we just did, we'd be here all day.
Yeah, probably.
We can use it as an example of how you might structure a very deep dive into a complex current topic.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of shows these structural principles in action, but maybe on a larger scale.
Good way to put it. We can highlight some key sections and see how they approach things like introduction, using evidence, personal stories, and so on.
Exactly. So let's just glance at the introduction section of that outline. It covers points 1 to 10.
Okay.
Point 1 is a greeting, aiming for a positive tone, just like we discussed for our podcast, setting the mood.
Mm-hmm, that initial connection, essential.
But then it gets very specific, very quickly.
Mm.
Points 2 to 4 introduce the topic phone and social media bans and immediately stress its relevance. You know, how phones are everywhere, how they impact students, society.
Right, so it's not just hello, it's hello, and here's why this matters right now. It hooks you in with context, urgency, almost.
Yeah. And then, points 6 and 7, they explicitly mention posing questions like, why are we so dependent? Are bans needed? And stating the goal, finding answers about regulating screen time.
So, again, we see those elements. Engaging the listener with questions and being clear about the purpose, the why of the discussion. Very similar to the principles in the first outline.
It is, isn't it? Just maybe applied to a more complex, argumentative topic.
And point 8 in that intro, the brief preview of main sections. It lists things like personal experience, stats, global examples, mental health.
That's like giving the listener a roadmap, right?
Exactly. It tells you what to expect, how the argument will unfold. It prevents that feeling of being lost in a sea of information. Really helpful for a complex topic.
Okay, so even just the introduction of that second outline shows a very structured approach. Then it goes into personal experience, points 11 to 20.
This is always a good way to make a topic feel more human, more relatable.
Sharing your own stories. Like the outline suggests, the hosts discuss their own phone habits, screen time, reliance on notifications.
Yeah, it grounds the discussion. And point 17 mentions looking at both the good and bad sides of their own phone use.
Which encourages balance, avoids making it just a complaint session.
Right. And point 19 talks about using specific examples from their lives. That makes it much more concrete, more memorable for the listener, doesn't it?
Definitely. Abstract discussion is okay, but specific stories stick with you.
Mm-hmm.
Then, after the personal angle, the outline brings in statistics, points 21 to 30.
So moving from the personal to the bigger picture, using data,
Right. It mentions looking at how much time teens and adults spend on phones, global stats, expert opinions.
This adds weight, credibility. It shows it's not just based on the host's feelings, but there's wider evidence.
And point 28 specifically mentions data linking phone use and attention spans. That's a pretty significant point for many people.
It is. Using stats helps quantify the issue, move beyond anecdotes. Although the personal stories make it relatable first. It's a good combination.
Yeah, the flow seems logical. Personal, then data. What comes next in that outline? Restrictions. Points 31 to 40.
Okay, so now looking at solutions or attempted solutions.
Seems like it. It mentions looking at what other countries are doing, like Australia banning social media for under 16s is mentioned. And also what schools are doing.
So, exploring different approaches, broadening the perspective beyond just the individual.
Yeah. And again, it seems balanced. Point 36 looks at the potential upsides of restrictions. Well, 37 looks at the criticisms, the downsides.
Good. Encouraging critical thinking, not just presenting one side. That's important for a complex social issue.
Definitely. And then, interestingly, point 39 brings it back to the personal. Again, the hosts discussing their own attempts at self-restriction.
So it bridges the gap, connects the big picture policy stuff back to individual experience and action. That's quite effective.
Seems like a good way to keep it grounded. Okay, what's next? Wow, a whole section on impact on mental health. Points 41 to 50.
A huge topic related to phones and social media, obviously. Very relevant.
Yeah. And again, the outline seems to aim for nuance, exploring both positive and negative potential impacts.
That's crucial. It's rarely ever black and white, is it?
No. And point 45 specifically notes that there are differing scientific opinions on some of these effects.
Acknowledging complexity and disagreement, that's responsible, I think. Avoids presenting opinions as settled facts.
Right. And point 49 offers practical tips like digital detox ideas for listeners to manage potential negative effects. So it's not just problems, but potential solutions too.
Actionable takeaways again. Helpful.
Okay, there's another section here that looks really interesting from an analytical perspective. Points 51 to 60. Correlation versus causation.
Yes. The classic trap.
Explain that. What's the difference and why is it important here?
Well, correlation just means two things happen together, like maybe heavy phone use and feeling anxious often occur at the same time. Causation means one thing directly causes the other. Proving causation is much, much harder.
So just because two things are correlated, it doesn't mean one caused the other.
Exactly. Maybe anxiety leads to more phone use. Or maybe a third factor like stress causes both. It's easy to jump to conclusions.
So this section of the outline is about encouraging that critical thinking. Don't just assume phone use causes X, Y, or Z.
Precisely. It's about analyzing the evidence carefully, avoiding oversimplification. Point 59 even suggests listeners try keeping a detailed diary of their own use to understand their personal patterns better. Self-analysis.
That's a really sophisticated point to include in the structure. Shows a commitment to rigorous thinking.
It elevates the discussion.
Okay, and then the outline moves back to personal stories again, but maybe at a deeper level.
Yeah.
Points 61 to 70, personal experience of struggling with addiction.
Right. So being vulnerable, sharing challenges.
Yeah. It mentions the hosts discussing their own struggles, maybe failed attempts to cut back, what they learned.
That kind of honesty can be incredibly powerful, can't it? Makes it very relatable. Listeners might be going through similar things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It normalizes the struggle. And the outline suggests focusing on the lessons learned, even from imperfect attempts. That feels encouraging.
Yeah. It's not about presenting perfect solutions, but about the ongoing process, the effort. Point 69 even calls on listeners to experiment themselves to find their own balance.
So it empowers the listener too. Find what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, the last section, points 71 to 80, is the conclusion. Summarizing, reiterating key points, maybe offering a final motivating thought.
Standard concluding elements, bringing it all together.
And point 79 explicitly calls for listener feedback again. Closing that loop.
Yeah, reinforcing that two-way street.
Wow. Okay, so stepping back, that second outline is, well, it's a masterclass in structuring a really deep, multifaceted discussion, isn't it?
It really is. The way it weaves together personal stories, data, expert opinions, policy discussion, critical analysis, practical tips, it's very comprehensive.
And it clearly demonstrates those structural principles we talked about initially. Clear intro, purpose, roadmap, balanced perspectives, listener engagement, just applied to a very complex topic.
Definitely. And looking at both outlines together, you really see how important that underlying structure is, regardless of the topic.
Yeah. And how you need to tailor the approach, like the emphasis on simple speech in the first outline, for language learners.
Exactly. The structure serves the content and the audience. Clear communication, logical flow, keeping the listener engaged. Those seem to be the common threads.
Mm-hmm. And for our listeners learning English, that clarity and detailed explanation, which is built into the structure of your English podcast, is just so vital.
Absolutely fundamental.
Well, this has been quite an exploration, going deep into the how and why behind structuring these conversations.
It has. Hopefully for you listening, seeing behind the curtain like this has been, useful, both for understanding how podcasts like this are made and maybe even for your own English learning journey.
We really hope this detailed look at structure, using both our own podcast's plan and that fascinating outline on social media bans, has offered some valuable insights.
Yes. Thank you so much for sticking with us through this, rather meta discussion today.
Yeah, a bit meta. We really encourage you to maybe think about the structure next time you listen to a podcast or even read an article. How is the information organized? How does it guide you?
It's a useful skill to develop, being aware of structure.
It is. So maybe a final thought to leave you with. Consider this. How might understanding the structure of information itself, the way ideas are presented and connected, actually enhance your ability to learn more effectively, to engage more deeply with new concepts, whatever the source might be?
Something to ponder, how structure shapes understanding.
Exactly. Food for thought.